Welcome to CSIS Online. The way we bring you events is changing, but we'll still present live analysis and award-winning digital media from our Dracopolis Ideas Lab. All on your time, live or on demand. This is CSIS Online.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. This is you're here at CSIS, but most of our audience is virtual, and I want to welcome all of you and say thank you for joining us today. My name is John Hamry. I'm the president at CSIS, and we're going to have a fascinating conversation this afternoon about a topic that, frankly, has been opening up my mind over the last several months, and especially today in conversation with Marcos Peña about a very interesting problem I had never thought of before. We all should be thinking of it, and that is, how do we train political leaders? If we wouldn't think of going into a surgery to have a heart surgeon operate on us, and he's never been trained before. He'd never done it. He'd seen it, maybe on television, but he'd never personally done it. Or we would never go to an accountant that has never gone to school, proper training. And yet we have politicians that we just let them get in the business on their own, and we don't give them very much support in thinking about it. Now, the downside of that is that we're electing people whose life experience is in the combat of getting elected rather than in the business of governing. And what Marcos Peña has thought about is we need a new model of leadership for politicians. America, all countries, need good politicians. There are only three ways that a society makes major choices. One is in a marketplace. You buy or sell something. You decide if you want to make a product. Can you sell it at that price? Do you want to buy it? That's one way we make decisions. Or we make decisions in a court of law or in other administrative procedures where there are rules established, and you put yourself into the process. You know what those rules are. But other than that, there's only one other way, and that's politics. Politics is an essential, vital function for how societies make decisions. But we don't train people to be governors. We train them in the brutal day-to-day process of getting elected. We train them to get elected, but not how to govern. So Marcos Peña said this is a problem we need to address, and I'm so grateful that he's taken the lead to help me think this through and to help all of us think it through, and we're going to dip into that this afternoon with what's going to be a fascinating conversation. I'm going to turn it to you, Marcos. Let me say thank you. I don't really need to introduce you, but he's one of the bright rising talents in Argentina, played a very crucial role in the Macri government. Now he is helping, this is one of his avocations now, and to say we're going to have to groom and grow better governors, politicians. I hate to use the term politicians because everybody thinks it's just the combat of politics. Politics is governing, and we need better politicians. So let's turn to you, Marcos. This is going to be fascinating. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you for a kind introduction. Thank you for the invitation and for the possibility of developing this project together here at CSIS. It's really has been a great exploration together these 6 months in this paper that we produced, and it's published and reflects a little bit of this great question of how we can get better leadership in our societies, and in that sense, help to have better societies. I am also thrilled to have three great guests with me today, three panelists that helped me a lot to think about all these aspects. Isabel here with me in Washington, Pepe and Tomas virtually. Hi, guys, from virtual reality. Let me just say a few remarks on how we got here so we can dive into the conversation, which I think would be very enriching to the experience of reading the document that you can all find in the web. 18 years of public office and dedication to politics took me to that question, especially of after COVID and the restrictions we all had, a time for reflection, a time for analysis of what we had gone through, what we had lived in power, in politics, in government. Took me to this realization that there was something missing in the picture we were looking at. What was missing was the human factor of leadership. And it's very difficult to think that we can get good results from a human process if we don't invest in taking care of those leaders and taking care of their development, their formation, and also their support system while they are in high-stress government situations. And one of the ways of investigating that reality was looking at other worlds of high performance. What was happening with human talent in other disciplines. And that's something that took me to this possibility of working with these great panelists that joined me today, in seeing that there was a lot of experience, tools, and ideas that we could capitalize from other worlds to help get better leadership. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today. And I think the other central point that I would want to introduce here is, why do we omit the human factor in political leadership? Why, what does that say about us? What does that say about our vision of leadership? And I think that we have in ourselves a vision, a more traditional vision of leadership, in a way like our old societies, where leaders were some people that were more close to God than to other humans. You know? Something that had a vision that made them different from the rest of the people. And that could have been the case with all the problems that had in societies that were not hyper-communicated as they are today. Today, we demand from leaders full transparency, 24/7, every day, every moment, the possibility of seeing what they do, what they think, what are their contradictions. But the institutional infrastructure and even the physical infrastructure where leadership occurs is old, is dark, it's distant from reality, from day-to-day people. So that's why I think that not only we have to think on how we can help in training and leaders, but also how we think of a leadership that is more human, that is more emotional, that is more close to reality of day-to-day citizens. And that's a way of reducing that gap that in all our societies we're having between a demand of leadership that can be trustable, that can be relatable to our realities, and the frustration that happens when that doesn't happen. No? So I would say that those as two introductory ideas, so I can go straight to the panel with the first question that we have been talking about. Is leadership something that needs permanent training support or not? And when we ask this question, I think of it not so much in terms of only politics, but leadership in general. No? And in that sense, is political leadership something that doesn't need it if the others do? Is there something different in the human being that's dedicated to leadership in politics and leadership in other aspects or not? I don't know, Isabel, we're closer. We can start with you, and then we go to Pepe and Tomas.
Thank you, Marcos. It's great to be here. Well, the moment leadership takes form, and I mean not just a man or a woman wanting to lead, having a great mission, having a great idea, having the passion for it, the desire to serve. But the moment it takes form, you're in front of an audience, you're in front of the media, or you're in front of the opposition. The moment it takes form, you need to have the skill to hold that form. And in that way, it is similar to theater, where you can have a natural talent to perform, a natural desire. But if you don't have the skills to hold the space, project yourself, and to project presence against that kind of contracting force of the scrutiny of an audience, the scrutiny, especially in political leadership, of a very challenging opposition. Audiences in theater, well, they used to throw things, but not so much these days. But there is always that need to connect with the audience and please the audience, or persuade them to your way of thinking. The moment leadership hits that arena, you really need skills. And then you can have natural skills when you're in a more intimate environment with a few friends or something, or your people who really agree with you. But theater teaches that we need certain skills just to hold the space, to ground, to breathe, to have a voice that projects. But you also need the skills of focus and absorption and concentration on what you want to get across, your message. Because just thinking it and feeling it is not going to persuade anyone. And we're in an era where we've kind of lost the beautiful value of persuasion. Like in theater, we're quite capable of listening to very long, complex thoughts and going with that. But in our political discourse, we've become very contracted in what we don't tend to think so much as just feel very quickly. But I long for leaders who can take us back to being able to hold a space and hold a thought and a persuasive line of thinking and draw us to maybe what they think is a better way of thinking. So yes, you need skills. You need to get to a certain level of skill, and then you're there. But then, like any actor, you need to warm up. You need to keep those skills, like any skill, piano playing, Tiger Woods golf, whatever. Any spatial kinesthetic skill needs ongoing practice and support, for sure.
Thank you. Pepe?
Well, thanks for inviting me to be a part of it. And as we discussed many times, I think it's time to rethink in this big picture about leadership, not just politicians, but in general, leadership in general, that we have to involve the body. The actors that they've been involved with brain activity, with decision making, that for many years we think that are things that are related to the mind and to the brain and to the rational thinking. Now we know that the involvement of the body and the involvement of the emotions are just as big of a part as the rationality. And in the athlete world, you train to get into the big stage and perform, and you train and you prepare for the action, and you prepare your body, you prepare your mind, and you prepare emotionally. And as we've seen in the past, as you described before, and in leadership in general and in the political world, you've seen how the body gets affected, how little maintenance we made for it. And in opposition to that, people, especially leadership and especially in politicians that are taking many more than we can handle, brain-wise, human-wise, decision-making under stress, it should be the opposite. It should be the most prepared people on earth in terms of how you prepare your body for the action, just like athletes do, where we train for it, because we know once we hit the stage, we're going to be under stress and we have to perform. And in the case of leadership, that there are decisions, because when athletes we make mistakes, or it's just a game. But in terms of when you're deciding about society, even more, it's got to be a preparation that involves the body and the physical aspect, and that involves not just training, but how you sleep, how you eat, are you hydrated or not? Are you involved with movement? Because the body needs to move to perform. Your body needs to be in motion to perform. There's some theories that they say that the motion it comes before the language. So first thing humans do, we move, and movement and taking care of your body is a crucial part of leadership, because first of all, you need to set the example, and second most, you need to be prepared for the action to come.
Thank you. Tomás? I think you're muted, Tomás.
Now it's working?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, hello everybody, and thank you a lot to give me the opportunity to be part of this. And testing the works of Pepe, I think that is really very important to take care of our body, no? In my case, we are working all the time under a very big stress in a place that we don't know what is going to happen in the next seconds or minutes. So the most important many times is to be prepared, that you can get it with a lot of training during your life, taking care of your body, training, have a very good physical training, and also all the little details that you can start working on your home, at your home, they are very, very important. But I think that the most important for a leadership in my place or in the mountains, in the natural place, is to be intuitive, you know. If something happens, you have to be really proactive to start working or to have a good readaptation of the situation, you know. Of course, that all the training that you can get with your experience and years of work, they are going to give you a very big help. But I think that the most important is to be focused in the place that you are and be sure that the thing that you are doing at this moment, they are the best one. And all the time, I think that the most important, perhaps climbing in the mountains, and for me in my life, is to be focused and of course to have the ethic way to do the things work.
I think it's very interesting when you see the human aspect from other perspective or other disciplines. You see that there's a lot of experience to be drawn out of that. No? The three testimonies speak about humans in stressful activities in a way. There are different stresses, maybe in a theater, on a stage, or in an NBA match, or in the Aconcagua mountain at 7,000 meters. But they're all stressors over our emotions and over our bodies and over our minds. And that's why I think it's so important to try to open the minds in terms of where we find that experience, those experiences, so we can learn and we can cross those experiences. Because one of the things we saw during this investigation is usually leaders in one discipline dedicate so hard to that discipline that usually they get a loss of perspective in terms of what's happening in other disciplines, no? And usually that tends to feed the self-sufficiency and to that situation that's very human also. So now that we know that everybody needs training for difficult things, I would like to hear you on what has happened in the last 20, 30 years in terms of how we train or how we know how our body works, or how our mind or emotions, or what we have learned in terms of training in the disciplines you all see. Isabel?
Well, I think there is a lot of training available under banner of things in my area of communications training and speaker training, presentation skills. You know, there's a whole screed of things that have always been there. In my particular work, I know more than anything, but there's a thing going on which is a suspicion of learning skills in this arena of leadership. It's a bit like you said before, we expect them all to be divinely anointed and perfect, otherwise they're suspect. And in fact, I heard a businessman say this to me last night. Yes, but if I learn all those skills, I'm going to be fake. I'm not going to be real and authentic and true. And so they think, well, if I'm just natural up there, that equals truthful. And that is such a big miscomprehension. Is that a word? Yeah, that'll do. Because it's that sense of being natural, being truthful, really allows the person to have no protection, no self-strength, self-support of their own ground and breath. Like I talk about cross-reference of skills. I have classical ballet, theater, and Aikido, which is a martial art I started not for very long, but enough to be deeply influenced by the idea of each one of those disciplines deals with a human body. If you're dealing with a human body, I don't care where you are, in a public arena, you're dealing with the need for gravity, grounding, command of space, vocal projection, watching the energy of everyone else in the room, like Aikido, and keeping your center, as Pepe was saying, keeping your center and your calm no matter what's swirling at you. And to think that building the skills to be able to hold the space and convey your message easily equals fake is a terrible mistake. The suspicion of training is an obstacle these days. We're all for the natural and the quick and the, and I think as time has gone on, timing has become faster, faster, faster. And the scrutiny is just 360 degrees with social media. And this sense that if I'm natural, I'm powerful and true is very true when you're in a more natural environment. But public arena is not natural. It's a very unnatural thing to be the only one talking, the only one in front of a crowd. There's a whole part of the animal brain that completely freaks out at that and creates a contraction. So you need the skills to stay expanded, or if you're on the basketball court, to keep your brain working in all that pressure. That requires a lot of skill. And it's a very good thing to have that skill. It's a responsibility to yourself and to your audience and to your message. So I think my greatest wish is that the idea of building skills wasn't somehow showing you're not a real leader,
Yeah, and the challenge, we talked a lot about vulnerability as strength these days, no?
Yeah, and actually I like the word openness more than vulnerability, because there's just I like openness. So like, when I'm in command of the space and I'm grounded and I've got something to share with you, I want to stay open like an Aikido warrior. You better stay open to what's coming, good, bad, or indifferent, or you're lost. So this openness to the space is super important, only then. And you can call it vulnerability, it doesn't matter. But to the flow that has to go on for communication to happen.
Great. Pepe?
Well, I think I will go a step before. And when we talk about the body, like the body is like basically the tool where then you can build skills, right? So the body, in the last, I would say 20 years, the sports science make a huge leap, and we discovered in sports precision in terms of the fact that with today's technology and advance in science, you can really know yourself body-wise. You can understand. You can have a lot of information about yourself, and there's something that I think it's like a check, in the box that's gotta be done. And in a way, we shouldn't be discussing if that's something that you should do or you don't. You get to be in good shape. I mean, you have to be in good shape, because we know the physiology and how the brain works is totally connected with the body, and we know that now. And we got the tools, we got the technology. So basically, that's a must do for any leader around the world, because if your body is not in the correct shape and in balance, all the skill development is going to be hard to get done. All the decision making, the accumulation of decision making, is going to be hard to get done. So today we get the skills. I mean, we had the tools, we had the information. Like I said, sports science make a huge leap to make athletes, but not just athletes, but any person to know and to have the tools available. And the fact that that if someone is not doing it, it's something that is missing, and it should be addressed, because you start with your body. And I will go to the key on why it's so important, especially for leadership. It's because longevity is playing now a huge role, and it's going to play an even more important role in the future. So, us as a society, we invest in so much time and resources on that leadership, And then, by not taking of the body, the longevity of the leadership and the experience that is acquired through time, it just, it melts down. And we've seen a lot of burnouts of people retiring from leadership positions. And the link that is missing is we didn't take care of the body. So everything starts with the body, how we take care. It's basically like going to school. You got to check the box. And then you start building from then up, the different skills and all the qualities that good leadership have. But once again, we need longevity on leadership, and that starts with the body.
Thank you. Tomás?
Good. Well, activity perhaps, again, is really important, the body and also the mind. Actually, they are changing every single day. All the mountaineering skills, the gear is changing really very quick, everything and every day. But I think that the most important thing is, again, is to know your own body and your own person. So you can train a lot at home. You can read all the new skills, but if you are not spending a lot of time in the field, it's really very hard to try to get that information in your body, because you can read a lot, but if you really don't get your own experience, it's impossible to know what is going to happen with your body. I don't know, for example, in the altitude at 8,000 meters. So in my case, I like to keep really focus in all the new skills, but the most important, I think, that is to be open mind and share a lot of experience with other people in the field, other colleagues like mountain guys from the States, from Europe, and start talking about, I think that is the best way to keep, in my way, in personality, to keep all the time in the high levels in the mountains. Again, really important to pay attention of every single detail, every single step.
Great. One more question for the three, and then to get a little bit more in deep with each one about their discipline is, what is the role in each of your line of work? There's a figure that helps, like a coach. A coach in sports is very clear, a mountain guide, as you said, Tomás, before, a theatrical director. What role does that figure have in the process of training and developing human talent in each of your disciplines? Because it's certainly, as we say in the paper, there's nothing like that in political leadership. It doesn't exist, the figure of somebody that works to enhance the performance of a person, or to guide that person, or to bring experience to the person. So I would like to see your vision in terms of each of your disciplines or your perspectives in that sense. Isabel?
A theater director wants to bring out the best performance in that actor. And a great actor, the greatest actor in the world, still wants to work with a director who will help bring out their best performance, who will see what they can do, urge them to it, not let them go into territories that are not focused on the role, will help them to get in that safe space where you can bring 100% of yourself. Because honestly, all great performances, whether theater or a speech, are experiences of truth for an audience and for the performers. So a great director has his eye on that, and an actor will feel confident that he can bring, I think what it brings to an actor and a public personage is a sense of confidence and a sense of trust in themselves, that this person's got their eye on them and can expand their boundaries and expand their possibilities. You can trust them that they're focused on you. They're not just focused on how you can do something for someone else. You know, it's like they're on you, they're on your performance, and then you'll give 100%. So it really helps you be all you can be.
The interesting thing when I hear you is many in the audience maybe say, well, that's what a consultant does in politics or an advisor. But I think one of the big differences is that also the director has the skin in the game because his name is on the movie also, no? Or in the theater.
Well, and exactly, and he has the role of that actor in context of the whole play that he wants to come across to an audience. But he knows if that actor isn't bringing everything to that role, then the whole thing will suffer. So yes.
Great.
Big picture person.
Big picture person. Pepe, what about sports and basketball?
Yeah, well, in sports, I mean, the coaching, I think you can make a parallel with you just mentioned, like the consulting and the tactics and the intelligence on it. But I think that, you know, once again, when you see the last 20 years where we made the biggest progress and you see it now, once again, with the longevity of the players, with the fact that now, I mean, look at, I'm going to go to tennis. I'm going to go away from basketball, but you look at tennis and you see something is unimaginable. The best top 3 players of all time, or 3 of the best, they playing at their 35, 40 years old, and that 20 years ago was unimaginable. Like you will retire at tennis when you were like 28, 30, right? And that is not that much. Doesn't have to do a lot with the tactics and, you know, the part of the coach type of, but with the support of a team that take care of his, you know, preparation for the games, how they recover after the game, how they diet, how they sleep. It has to do with the well-being of the player, and I think that's probably the missing link. All the rational part, all the, you know, the tactics, and I think, you know, in terms of politics, like that's taken care of. But I think that probably the next step is to have the same concern about, you know, all the technical part, but also with the support of once again the body, the mind, and the emotions, because that keeps you in the game for much longer in a much better shape. I was thinking when you know, you guys were talking, thinking about how you know, politics, a campaign is, and you got to go from one place to the next, to the next, to the next, and I'm thinking that it's a race. Whoever is in better shape, it has so much more advantage to earn the spot. And once you start, you know, even if you win, you know, you lost lots of your energy on campaigning, and now you have to, you know, be on the spot, and that's where a team of people taking care of the body and the machine and the brain and the soul kicks in, just like in sports.
Right. And Tomas, how do you see it? You're muted again.
Oh, yeah, because I need to change my AirPods. Sorry. It's very similar than Pepe told us. Of course, that the climbing mountains and the mountaineering is a sport. But I can see a big difference, perhaps, that during the mountain or climbing Everest, Aconcagua, every kind of mountain, you are really exposed at very risky situations, you know. And many times you can win, you can lose, but you are playing. Let's try to put it in a word. You are playing with the life of the people, you know. Perhaps many times we are climbing up, we are in the same rope, and that rope means that you have a life behind you on your back. So that the coaching or leadership or all the skills that you need to have, really you need to be 100% sure of what you are doing, no? Because just 1 second can change for the rest of your life, and can expose you for a very, very dangerous situation. So again, I think that the communication, to be really strong all the time. I keep training your mind, your body, and all the little things that you can with that you can make the difference. They are very important. So I think that the mountain, any kind of sport, they teach you a lot. You know, they teach you to be very simple in everything that you are going to do, and they give you a lot of things for the rest of your life. You know.
Something interesting, I think, that has come up in a lot of conversations these months is mental health, no? And it's related to the situation of egos. That's something that's very present when you develop talent, independent of what talent you're developing. And also in terms of how that works collectively afterwards in teams, no? In the different teamwork situations that we're talking about here. And shifting the order, since this question is a little bit off script, I would like if each one of you could tell an example or a personal anecdote in terms of where those three things put a crisis in a situation, or gave you something that you could help to transmit as a learning in terms of the importance of that mental health dimension and the emotional aspect of leadership. I don't know who wants to begin, but whoever has the example more in mind.
You mean mental, emotional, and physical?
Especially the challenge of mental health, and particularly in terms of ego and how that impacts collective experiences, like a...
Yeah, in my case, the ego is really important, you know. Again, perhaps, let's put the example, climbing Everest. You can meet a lot of people, different people that is coming from different worlds, because perhaps you have the CEO of a very big company, you have a teacher from your town, but it happened something very particularly, that all that people once arrived to the mountain, to the base camp, they are all the same, you know. They are any difference they are going to have, and it's very important how the people start working with that. In my example, guiding around the world and different mountains, I share experience with different kind of people. Perhaps again with my brother and people that I never think to have it in the mountain, and every single people was the same at the end of the expedition. Perhaps they arrived with different goals or a challenge or goals, and at the end they are the same. You know, the mountains put it in the same place to everybody, and if we don't work like a team, perhaps I am the mountain guy, perhaps I am the leader for the rest of the people, but I need to make that every people work at the same way. You know, if somebody of the team doesn't work, we are not going to have the best experience like a team, and that is very important. You have to be really very strong of mind, and you need to be decided to be at the same place of everybody. You know, if not, it's really difficult to spend 2 months climbing Everest, for example.
Yeah, I can totally see that. But also, from my arena, I come across, and I'll kind of put a few things into one anecdote, how exhausting and time-consuming and time-wasting it is for some leaders to deal with the call for public presence, to appear in a public arena, in a debate, in a media event, to deliver a speech, when quite unexpectedly to other people, because they're very confident, very strong, very big leaders, they may be suffering from some kind of that impact of scrutiny, nervousness, quite involuntarily. The throat can tighten, the breathing can tighten, and you're like, I'm prepared, I know what I want to say. Why is this inadvertent thing happening to me that's undermining my media moment, my presentation? So many people do suffer from that, even military people, right, who are very confident in another arena. So this can be incredibly stressful for people and prevent people sometimes from seeking jobs that require that of them. So they just don't go into that arena so they don't have to do that and go through that stress. But the moment they get a modicum of skills, and then I really want to point this out, we're talking about comparing this work to some very, very high skill area, but the kind of skills you need for holding public leadership, like to hold an audience, they're simple, but they are profoundly effective in the body. And without them, you're unprotected. They're not really, really hard skills to do. And so when these kind of people get these simple skills, suddenly they can do what they want to do. And that all that mental pressure and nervousness, and they're kind of ashamed of having those reactions that are quite normal. And then they're freed from that. I love seeing that. It's so easy to do. And it shouldn't prevent someone from being all they can be just because of that little inhibition. Very easy to fix. So it's a very common story.
Right. Pepe?
Yeah, I begin from a very stoic point of view in terms of like, in my view, like nobody's prepared. Nobody's prepared. Like nobody's prepared for the things that society throw us, to some people in certain spots, right? It doesn't matter where. It's sports, politics, acting. Like nobody. I mean, there's some exceptions, but most of the people, we don't born to be in front of like 20,000 people talking, or it's not that way. So I had to agree 100% with Isabel in terms of like to that point. To me, it's skills. I mean, you need to have skills. It's not something, once again, unless you're exceptional, but the exceptions are very rare. You need to have skills, and because I think in one way or the other, we all been thrown to situations where, some things that we've done can affect our ego, and that affects your decision making. And like Tomas was saying, like the mountains keep you humble. Well, we got to find ways all the time to keep ourselves humble. And I think understanding that basically you're playing a role, you're playing a part in a big picture is one of the things that to me really works. And then when we go to the skill part, I think meditation is the most useful skill that I've found so far. And it's got to be a routine. It's got to be something a skill that you develop, but it's always there to keep you grounded, to keep you focused, to keep you understanding on being present on the moment, and be able to deal with the situation. But like Isabel was saying, you need to have skills. To me, meditation is one of them. Stoicism is another one. But you need to find the right ones, whatever fits you. For Tomas, it's the mountain. But you need to find your skill that keeps you grounded mentally, because especially with the hyper-communication that we had today, it's mental health is pretty much everything. Whoever has the skill to be mentally, I mean, we just went through a pandemic for 2 years. I mean, nobody expected that, and mental health kicked in, right? And we saw how fragile we are. It's something that we need to work, and it's about developing the right skills.
Well, that's great for the last part of this conversation. At the end of this paper, there are 9 tools that we propose to get into the toolbox of leaders in a way. No? And I would like to make a double click in terms of the skills with each one of you, so we could help maybe the audience in terms of something concrete. And I would like to start with Tomas, so we respect the same order as just now. One of the things that we're talking about is rewilding, or the idea of contact with nature. What skills does a leader take from contact from nature, in your experience? What skills, be it trekking or be it climbing a high mountain or being other forms of types of nature? Why is it important, and what skills would you recommend working on?
Good. For me, to be all the time in the mountains or in the nature is like the most important skill perhaps is to be simple, you know, because the natural world is really simple and wild. If you are wild and simple, perhaps it's the most important to have a good a goal, or perhaps the best way to be safe, you know. And of course that the same that Pepe told, that to have your skills, every single skills that you can get is important, but for me the most important is to spend time in the place, in the field. That is going to give you that if something happens, you can react, you know, and you don't need to think what you are going to do, because that experience is going to give you the best way to do the things at that moment. So to be simple and really wise is the most important, perhaps. That is mean that you're going to be focused, that you are going to be ready and training with your body. You're going to take care with the food, with the water, with everything, simple thing. So simple and wide.
Thank you. What about you, Isabel? What skills would you put on the table for those that are listening to us?
From nature?
No, from your perspective in terms
but
of...
you know, I totally resonate with the idea of nature, but I even take mine internally. The understanding that once we are in public and we're in a sensory mode, you see me, you hear me, my voice, you see my gestures, we're in a space, virtual or real, there's an animal aspect that kicks in, and I feel gravity. I'm not just a mind, I am a physical body. I can use gravity, I have to project out. So there are some very basic skills that are to do kind of with our sensory animal selves, and we undervalue this because we're so locked into the brilliance of our minds and our ideas and our text and our words, but we forget that the thing that carries those across is this instrument. And it is an instrument of the earth and the elements as much as anything else. You know, we feel gravity, we breathe, we have a vibrating voice that is either a full voice or a very thin voice, and this matters to how we get the message across. So a very simple training of the kinesthetic self is for me the fundamental. And that's the basic toolbox. But then you have a second phase of work, which is, okay, now how do I use that? How do I apply that in this situation, that situation? That's where it gets really interesting and very supportive to someone. When they know they can drive their own car like that, they get confident, they're less stressed, and they can do what they want to do.
Thank you. Pepe, what about basketball and sports and your experience in that sense?
I think it's very simple, preparation for the action. You know, if you're especially if you're taking a leadership spot, you know, that's a responsibility. You're taking on a responsibility bigger than yourself, because you're leading, you know, as the word says, you're leading, and that's a 24/7 job in terms of, you know, how you prepare to lead, you know, how ready you are to do the job you need to do. And it's not something that, you know, it's just in the rational world, it's not something that only constrains the brain, but it constrains the body. And you need to prepare. You need to prepare just like athletes do, just like actors do, just like Tomas prepared to go to the mountain and put his life on the line. It's no difference. For any reason, he got disconnected. But I think it's very important so that we can reconnect that part of ourself with the leadership, and also it's a huge advantage for whoever does it.
Great, thank you. I think it's very clear and very inspiring what you have shared today, and I think thinking of the audience, this idea of one thing that Pepe told me one time when we were talking about high performance, and one of the first steps is to be conscious of a situation. No? Maybe we don't have all the solutions or all the tools or all the institutions ready to rethink leadership and how we prepare, but at least we have to take conscious that we have a situation that we have to attend here. If we have a crazy system that makes leaders crazy, we'll have crazy policies. It's very linear and it's pretty obvious, but maybe we haven't been seeing it too much. No? So I would say the last word for each of you, if you want to say a closing message in terms of what would be the path forward in terms of how we could inspire or make more people conscious about the challenge of rethinking the human role in leadership. I don't know who wants to start, Isabel or each.
I think as a closing inspiring thought, we're talking about so much about the problems or the stress or the difficulty, but I'd like to finish on the enormous possibility of a human being to do amazing things when they have the support of, in our terms, some simple techniques, some simple skills, and the will that's in them, and they have a message they have and a passion for something they want to deliver. What extraordinary things can be accomplished with just not even a huge amount of support around the right person. And I see that happening in individuals over and again. I completely believe in the power of some basic support and training and skill to unleash a person's presence and capacity to have tremendous effect in the world. And it just breaks my heart that so often really good people are pulling out or letting, because they're not getting that support. And I really applaud you for wanting to move into this arena of not making skill building something that you shouldn't want to do, you should be natural at it. No, this is the age we're in now. Build the skills and go be all you can be. That's my inspiring finale.
Thank you. And I think that illuminates something that's very important. This paper is focused on political leadership, but we are thinking things here that apply to everybody, and to understand that leadership is something that is not reserved for some illuminated people, but something that we can all have an impact in transforming our society, and that needs inspiring and needs that human connection. Pepe?
Well, I think for me to say something inspiring, it's more about the inspiration of what we're doing right now. The crossing. We're talking about different disciplines. I got really inspired, listening to Tomas and Isabel. The fact that Marcus, you're trying to, make your field of work better, create better leaders, especially the young leaders that are rising now, and they're going to lead us in the next years. And the fact that we're doing it, I think, is inspired itself. The inspiration of listening to each other and to understanding that there's so many things, so many tools out there to be better. I think we don't have to be afraid of being better. Being better is something you can do until the very last day of your life. There's no limit to getting better and better and being a better version of yourself. And especially, once again, if you're going to project, whatever you think, and your decision making is going to affect other people. So I think that's inspiration, and I thank you all for sharing all your knowledge.
Thank you, Pepe. Tomas?
Well, yeah, okay. From my side, I think that the first step is the most important, is to be honest and communicate with yourselves. When you have everything clear with you, it's more easy to start working or having experience with the rest of the people. And again, yes, taking the same that Pepe told, is really we need to invite more and more people to try to be better. It's not bad I think that is the best way to try to be better every day, and not only in our activity at home. I think that all the leadership start in the family, in your home, and then you open the door of your home and you start working with the rest, you know. Again, I think that to be simple and very honest is the best way, and I think that is the best skill that all the leaderships they need to have, you know, to be really transparent.
Thank you, Tomás. Thank you, Pepe. Thank you, Isabel. Really inspiring, all your testimonies, and I think that maybe for all the people that are on the other side of the screen, having the possibility afterwards of leaving an email or some communication where you can connect to them, or if any of them want to, I don't know, climb the Aconcagua or learn more about the skills you work in, I think would be great. I think this is a project that tries to start a conversation. So hopefully we can continue in different ways to have this conversation to see how we can learn from each other. As Pepe said before, I think that's great because we have to have the humility and of understanding that there's so much out there that we don't know that could make us better. And I think that's a real challenge for us as a way of living. So thank you very much. Thanks again for the CSIS for hosting this conversation, and thank you for everybody. Thank you everybody that's on the other side listening. Hope you had a good time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.